I left town for 2 weeks and came back to a house I couldn't drive into. No, seriously, my driveway gone. In its place, a perfect brick courtyard stretching straight into my neighbor's brand new mansion addition, like my property had decided to join his estate while I was gone. I remember sitting in my car engine running, just staring at it, trying to convince myself that I had somehow pulled up to the wrong house. But no, there was my mailbox crooked the way it's always been, and that big maple tree my dad planted when I was 10. And there, stretching across what used to be 40 years of packed gravel leading to my garage, was a glossy fan of imported bricks. Now for context, my neighbor is Grant Holloway. Mid-50s hedge fund money, custom suits on weekends too. You know the type. He bought the old Whitaker estate next door 3 years ago, turned it into a house out of Architectural Digest. Every month, new crews, new deliveries, new layers of excess. Wine cellar, glass elevator, a guest house for visitors who probably owned houses bigger than mine. His latest obsession, a European motor court. A grand circular driveway for his car collection. That apparently is why my driveway was now part of his vision. I killed the engine and stepped out, gravel crunching beneath my shoes. Well, not gravel anymore, just brick. My garage sat behind the courtyard like an afterthought, sealed off by someone else's landscaping. A low stone wall curved where my turning space used to be, and decorative lanterns lined the path. It was beautiful, I'll give him that. It was also mine. Grant was standing near the front of the courtyard, admiring the symmetry with a tall guy in round glasses, probably the architect. I walked across the brick, feeling like I was trespassing on my own land. Grant, I called louder than I meant to. He glanced over, mild surprise on his face, like he'd just noticed a waiter standing nearby. "Oh, hey, you're back," he said. "How was the trip?" I didn't answer. I just pointed behind me. "Where's my driveway?" He followed my hand as if he truly needed help locating it, then smiled, small and patronizing. "Oh, that old gravel strip," he said. "We had a survey done. Turns out it was never legally recorded as a dedicated driveway. More of an informal access path, actually. My attorney said it's technically part of a shared easement area, so we upgraded it." "You're welcome." I actually laughed. Sometimes when something's so absurd your brain refuses to process it as anger. "You paved over my property while I was out of town." He shook his head. "We paved over an unregistered access corridor that overlaps my parcel. The new design benefits both of us. You now have a much more attractive entrance. It leads to your front door. It's shared." I stared at him. "So I need permission to access my own house." "No one's asking you for permission," he said, that smooth Wall Street tone slipping in. "But we do have documentation supporting the modification. If you have concerns, you're free to review it." The architect shifted awkwardly, and I could tell even he knew this looked bad. I walked inside my house through the front door because I couldn't pull around back. And I did what anyone would do in 2026 when something feels off. I called the county planning office. The woman on the phone sounded tired before I even explained. "Oh yes," she said. "We've received filings regarding an easement clarification on your street. Mr. Holloway's legal team submitted quite a bit of documentation. It'll take several weeks to review." "Several weeks," I said. "I can't access my garage." She paused. "You may want to consult an attorney," which in bureaucratic code means good luck. That night I sat at my kitchen table staring at old photos of this house. My grandfather built it in 1958 when this hillside was just dirt roads and ambition. He wasn't rich. He was stubborn practical. I grew up hearing stories about how he mapped everything out, how he believed in wide setbacks, shared green space, and making sure emergency vehicles could get anywhere they needed to go. Around midnight, I climbed into the attic, flashlight in hand, and started digging through dusty boxes. That's when I found the thing that made my stomach flip. Grant had hired expensive lawyers, but they hadn't known my grandfather. It wasn't dramatic at first glance. It wasn't some bold red stamp that said gotcha. It was just paperwork, technical stuff most people skim. But Grant's team missed it. Original subdivision plats from 1957, hand-drawn in ink with my grandfather's initials. Utility easement agreements from the county. One document was labeled Secondary Emergency Access Route Cedar Ridge. I sat cross-legged reading it twice. The so-called informal gravel strip that Grant had paved over. It wasn't informal at all. It was designated as a secondary emergency access lane for fire and medical vehicles in case the main road became blocked. It was wide enough for a ladder truck to maneuver. The language was clear: permanent access, not to be obstructed or modified without municipal approval. Grant's courtyard sat directly on top of it. I remember laughing quietly to myself, not out of cruelty, but out of that strange relief when you realize you're not crazy. That gut feeling wasn't paranoia, it was history. The next morning, I turned my dining room table into a war room. I scanned everything, highlighted clauses, and compared old maps to satellite images of Grant's renovation. His brick courtyard overlapped the exact coordinates of the utility corridor. I called the utility company first. They confirmed that the corridor was classified as critical access. Then I called the fire department. The captain, once I mentioned the private renovation, shifted from polite to interested. "Send me the documentation," he said. By Friday afternoon, I had sent everything to 3 separate offices. Then I waited. Grant acted like nothing was wrong. He hosted some kind of wine tasting that weekend. I could hear laughter and clinking glasses from my backyard. Luxury cars rolled carefully across the courtyard. At one point, he saw me standing near my fence and raised a glass in my direction. "You getting used to the upgrade," he called. I walked closer, leaning against the fence. "You ever check what's under those bricks?" He smiled indulgently. "Professionals handled everything." "Sure they did. You know," he said, "this doesn't have to be adversarial. We could formalize a shared access agreement, increase your property value. I'm trying to elevate the neighborhood." There it was, elevate. What he meant was control. He was reshaping the identity of the block. "I don't need elevating," I said. "I need my driveway." Monday morning at 8:12, the trucks started rolling in. It wasn't subtle. Utility vehicles, city planning SUVs, and fire department pickups. I stood on my porch with a mug of coffee, not drinking, just watching. Grant came out in his workout clothes, AirPods, and probably heading for a run. He slowed when he saw the trucks. One of the utility supervisors, a stocky woman with a clipboard, walked straight into the courtyard and started pacing, comparing it to a printed map. Grant approached with that same polished confidence. "Can I help you?" he asked. The supervisor didn't smile. "Are you Mr. Holloway?" "Yes, we've received notice of potential obstruction of a primary utility easement. We need to inspect subsurface access points." Grant blinked. "There's no obstruction. This area was cleared through proper channels." The supervisor flipped open her folder. "Our records show no coordination request for surface hardscaping over this corridor." Grant's jaw tightened. "This is unnecessary," he said. The city planner flipped through his folder. "Your renovation permits don't reference utility encroachment mitigation, nor do they address the designated secondary emergency access lane." The fire captain stepped forward. "This gravel strip was mapped as an emergency access route. It appears to be obstructed." It was quiet for a moment, thick with tension. The utility supervisor crouched near one of the planters, tapping it with her boot. "We need this removed to access the gas shutoff beneath." Grant's world, all about influence, money, and paperwork, collided with the unyielding reality of what lay beneath. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that you're going to tear up my property? If it sits on our easement and blocks access, yes." It wasn't triumph I felt, it was validation. Not a victory from a fight, but a quiet relief that the system still worked even when money tried to bulldoze it. What followed wasn't dramatic. It was methodical. The utility crews came back with radar equipment. By noon, they had spray-painted bright lines across his courtyard. Grant tried one last angle, saying he could still modernize things. I reminded him that easements don't change. The city issued a formal notice of violation, and the jackhammers started. By Friday, his courtyard was rubble. It wasn't fast, it wasn't glamorous, but it was right. Grant tried to salvage what he could, but his insurance wouldn't cover the damage. His loss was significant, and it wasn't just about money, it was about control. The house was sold below cost. The new owners had a pie to offer me in my driveway. It's better than ever. Sometimes I wonder if it was worth it. But my grandfather's maps are still here, and they'll outlast any amount of money or ambition.